to look, but Peter McCulloch is the same. Peter McCulloch is a cardio-renal specialist, and he's never looked at the data. Why would he? You trust the literature, you trust what you're being told. So, but this is the point. I must come back to this point. The people who told you early in 2020, Gates and others, obviously Gates isn't a scientist, he's a college dropout who made a lot of money selling dodgy software. But whoever advised him to, hold still, lockdown, we'll make a vaccine, even if the narrative was true about the respiratory viral pandemic, vaccination could never have worked. I've just told you and shown you the evidence that it already known that the elderly who are vulnerable to these illnesses, I'm not even sure what causes them, by the way, but even if you accept the narrative that it was flu vaccines do not save them. And I can assure you, even if they had a good product, which they don't, COVID-19 vaccines likewise could not have made any difference. And they knew that. The same people who gave birth to these vaccines were the same people who've been lying to you for decades about influenza vaccines. So that's really important. Second, then I will tell you a few things. So that's a really important thing.
No, that is shocking, and that is so important. And the thing is, every serious scientist or anyone serious or semi-serious working in that field knows this, right?
Yes, I know. They do, and they're not speaking out.
And we're talking about, listen to these companies, they're so cute. We're talking about tens of thousands of people who are super qualified, who could have spoken out as well.
I think everyone, well, do you know what? I'm not sure very many doctors. Dr. Aseem Malhotra, who's a wonderful cardiologist, he was even pro the vaccine early on, even though he knew that the whole thing was like exaggeration and the lockdowns were silly and masks don't work. He was pro the vaccine at first. He had not looked at the data. Then his father, also a cardiologist, who he loved to death, took the vaccine and died. And I hope, if I've got the story wrong, Aseem, I apologize, but my understanding is that you were so appalled that you fought tooth and nail to have a post-mortem done, even though no post-mortems were being done. Did you know that? Your listeners don't know this, that post-mortems have almost ceased in the world by coincidence at the start of this, and that's so they can't tell how they died. But anyway, so
not just looking for COVID, but for any post-mortem has been postponed.
The main thing is that they didn't die of COVID. Right?
Oh, true.
That's where I'm going to come back to. Right, exactly. So anyway, so a post-mortem was held, and findings, I think, in his father's heart are exactly as you would expect them to be. Now we know what we know about the vaccines. And the man was killed by one of these COVID-19 vaccines. And so Aseem has become, rightly and rationally very vocal. That's not the reason he's done it. But that was something he has suffered along the way. So the other thing to say, and this is a point of safety, how long, I wonder, do your listeners think it might take before you could acquire a sufficiently long safety database so that it would be okay to just go off and inject billions of people? I would say I probably would want at least 2 years safety data. Let's be generous and say it's 1 year.
Oh, come on, 5 years minimum. If you do it on this scale, if you shoot it up people's arms.
People don't understand that the amount of safety data they had, even if you believed they behaved honorably, which they didn't, but even if they behaved honorably, they had 2.5 months of post-dose experience. So that's all they knew. If your legs fell off after 3 months, they would not know that because they had no experience of what happened after 2.5 months any longer. So I would say, here's the thing. If you're thinking of using a brand new vaccine in a public health emergency where you're going to inject lots of people, you need safety data that's so strong that you will not harm people. Because if you blast away at the population, the most certain outcome as a toxicologist, I would say, is you're going to hurt lots of people because you've literally no idea what will happen.
And they used to do this, Mike, didn't they? They used to do this, but they were able to bypass it because it was a crisis. And this was something Fauci set up, wasn't it, in 2018 or 19?
Yes, they did. Basically, we have to create a crisis so we can bypass and short circuit these things. But so just to appeal to your heart that basically your children, folks, if you've let them, have been injected with a molecule. And I've got worse for you, but for which they had so little safety data, you would probably not allow a pet of yours to be injected.
Wow.
Because no one had any idea what will happen. They didn't even know. I don't even think, and they didn't care. It's reckless. So, and basically, I won't name him because he'll be embarrassed now. You're not allowed to say this. That a lot of people have said, "Oh, don't be silly." They did all the normal tests. They just did them faster. They did them in parallel. They spent more money. So, a famous phrase from a senior friend of mine was, he said, "Sometimes you can't go faster, no matter how much resource you throw at a problem." And he said his example is, you can't make a baby in 1 month with 9 women.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, it's a good one.
So basically, you can't get a year's safety data in 6 months.
No.
It doesn't matter how many people you test, you still only got a few weeks. So here's my point. First, the vaccines could never have worked, and I've given you evidence that showed that we knew this already. Secondly, they could not be known to be safe enough to be given widely, and yet they gave them. Those two things are criminal, deliberate. They're recklessness at the very best.
Yeah, and we're going to get to why they're doing this a little later. But first, I mean, for me, I was able to work this out. I'm not a scientist. I mean, but I was able to work all this out just by using common sense.
Yeah.
And I went one step back. I was looking at the data. I was looking. This is the only question people still need to ask themselves. And if we go back, and we should never let this go, how dangerous was this?
Yes.
So it's as simple as that. Be like a child. How dangerous is it? So, okay, that was very obvious, but within 2 months, it's not that dangerous. So you don't need anything. You don't need a shot.
Exactly. I say to people that it was blindingly obvious that they were lying. It could not possibly be what they said it was. Do you remember people falling on their face in Wuhan? Yeah.
I mean,
that for me is just like, I thought, this is a movie set.
It's like, you're walking, they tell you that you're walking the street and all of a sudden, oh, a virus, ooh, it's gone.
Exactly. I can assure you, I don't believe a single person has ever died of a respiratory virus of any kind in that way.
Split second.